everybody. Happy Monday and welcome to Act 3 on CHLY 101.7 FM. I'm Kathy Holmes. I am delighted to be your host. And as always, I have some terrific people in the Zoom booth today to talk about some really cool things. So let me introduce them. I'm going to start with Tracey Brown, and she is the CEO of Nanaimo Foundation, and Sarah Wallbank, who's with Dine About, but also is the co-chef, co-owner of CAMAS restaurant in Lantzville. Did I get that right, ladies? Oh, two goals.
Yes, you did.
Right on. Okay, welcome. I'm not sure which one of you wants to start, but let's open it up because we are going to be talking about some, relatively important things. Rethinking drinking being one of them, but there are other things that are in our conversation today. So which one of you would like to tell us a little bit about who you are to start with, and then we'll move along from there.
I would defer to Tracey as the
Okay.
rethinking drinking point person.
That's great.
Yeah.
Tracey, welcome to the show. Nice to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kathy. It's a pleasure to be here today during dry January, and really just pleased to be in this partnership with Sarah and Dine About. I think it's really important messaging to share with the public just how many of our restaurants are embracing other choices.
Yes.
And so allowing people to not be stigmatized by choosing not to drink alcohol, and offering choices that complement the menu and really add to the dining experience. And so we're really pleased to partner with Dine About this year. This came about because we are in a partnership with the Canadian Alcohol Use Disorder Society. And we started this Rethinking Drinking campaign last April, where we held a workshop for frontline workers and folks that are involved with servicing folks with issues, as well as Island Health, their public health department, and some doctors that are working on the issue. And really, it's just been a fabulous experience to get to know the community in this way, and really great for the Nanaimo Foundation to be able to connect folks in a different conversation, which is something we love to do.
And I have to say that I do love that concept of having alternate choices, because so often, when you go to the restaurant, there is that sort of, especially a higher end restaurant, there's always going to be wine to the table or a fancy cocktail or something to break the ice so that you can have an enjoyable experience. But not everybody enjoys alcohol, and certainly we've seen some changes in the way that people drink in public or when they're making their choices. And so I definitely want to talk a little bit more about that for sure. Sarah, you're with Dine About, not Down About. See, I told you it was going to happen. Dine About. Welcome to the natural essence of me falling over my tongue. Tell us a little bit about Dine About, as well as CAMAS Restaurant.
Oh, sure. So Dine About is a winter food festival, which invites people to get out and support local businesses. And it makes food makers across mid-Vancouver Island more visible, more accessible during this time. So we're celebrating the people that are behind the scenes, the chefs, the servers, the farmers. We're keeping our food community strong during the winter months, because after the holiday season, which can feel like quite abundant, January can, in contrast, be lean. And so creating that excitement again about getting out and dining and revisiting an old favorite or discovering something new, it's a wonderful opportunity for local makers and restaurateurs, bakeries, cafes, really just to showcase what it is that they're passionate about and get people in the door.
Well, and I love food, and I love being able to go out and enjoy different kinds of food. And quite often we do get ourselves sort of stuck in this rut of going to the same place all the time, the same things all the time. And so it is really lovely to be able to have some options that are not only alcohol friendly, but or alcohol aware, but also, an opportunity to test our palate and to try something new and wonderful. And I know that, while this is being taped in January, for sure, we're going to to be talking about this again later on throughout the year. And
Mhm.
so, it's timely for all of us to recognize that, yes, it's true. After Christmas, things do slow down. The weather kind of keeps people inside a little bit, and how lovely it is to go out there and still have such a wonderful time by getting out of our house and getting into a restaurant to try something new. I want to break open a bit of a conversation about drinking because I read a few years ago, an article about how many women actually, and we are three women here, that find themselves from time to time drinking more and behind the curtain. So
Mhm.
it's not
Yeah.
something that's really as visible. And I wonder if you guys have a take on that, and what is it that what do you know about alcoholism as it goes? And is there really something for us to be concerned about?
Well, I'll jump in on this one, and just say that, alcohol is a recognized medical disease.
Yeah.
And, when we were growing up and younger, not to age anybody, but when we were growing up and younger, like the choice was, you attend AA meetings or you don't. There were very, very few treatment options, and there was a lot of stigmatization around it.
Yeah.
Also, alcohol is publicly available. It's legal, it's accessible, and so that's also because it's plentiful in our society. It's easy to access, and people drink too much for a lot of different reasons. First and foremost, it could just be genetics. You could
Yeah.
just have it in your genes that you're somebody that is got a low tolerance for this particular drug and you are going to really indulge. It could be because of a mental health issue, undiagnosed or diagnosed, and you don't like the medication you're on. And so, drinking comes more into play. Or it could be trauma or social factors. It really could be a number of different things. And so, what we're trying to do at the Nanaimo Foundation through this great working group that we've convened is just try to destigmatize not drinking.
Yeah.
Like in my family, if your wine glass at the table is empty, everybody's like, oh, is something wrong? What's up with you? And so just not making it the social norm that we take that liquor, that
Yeah.
we have that drink,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
that we are reflective and celebrate on occasion and drink when it's healthy and good. Um, because I love a good Pinot Noir, and I
Sure.
don't
We
want
all
to
do.
give that
Yeah.
up,
Yeah. But there's
But
limits
yeah,
that
just
we need to be aware of.
taking a pause.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
I
love the
remember.
pause piece because I think that it's true as we do, I think for a lot of people, the social drink is one thing, but social drinking for one person can mean something very different for another as well, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And then going back to your point about it, women in particular,
yeah.
for me and my friend group, motherhood and then perimenopause really, you know, people don't talk about all of that stuff very much. Certainly, I didn't get that information from my mom or my aunties, and it was a surprise when all of that business hit me.
Boy, do I resonate with that. Because in reality, that is very true. And I think that, I'm postmenopausal at this point now. I hate to say that out loud because I'd rather be, 40 years younger, but that is not the reality. There are parts of things that I don't have the same tolerance that I once had either, right? When
Mm,
I was younger, I could have a few glasses of wine and not, it was fine. Now I can tolerate one or two and my whole system goes, awry.
yeah.
I now get rosy red cheeks, which I never used to get, and all kinds of things that just tell me that I no longer have the same tolerance. Sarah, what are
Mm.
your thoughts around this? Have you noticed or experienced or have any ideas about what you see, especially in the restaurant world,
Mm.
for women in drinking?
Well, there's a couple of things that were floating through my mind, and one is about the culture of drinking, and
Yeah.
that has the detail of, well, maybe that has been rotating, that has been surrounding alcohol consumption, but now with more options. And now with people truly rethinking drinking and with the support of producers creating really delicious libations that are appropriate to have with a meal because there's that complementary factor.
Yes.
The culture around pausing, slowing it down, enjoying your time, breaking bread with friends over a glass of something delicious is truly what it's about in the restaurant industry. And it doesn't need to have alcohol in it.
Yeah.
It can be a non-alc cocktail. We have some beautiful non-alcoholic wines now that give people options, you know, and for me in the restaurant business specifically, giving people more option, more choice so that they are contented is really what it's all about. And that ties a little bit back to something that I mentioned at the launch party, which we had recently for Dine About Mid-Island. And it's that the word restaurant comes from restaurer, to restore. And
Right.
when we visit a restaurant, it is a kind of restoration of ourselves. We're pausing, we're being nourished on so many levels, like not just
Mhm.
physically, but perhaps like socially, culturally, emotionally. We're creating memories for the future. Sometimes it's a quick bite, but sometimes it means something much, much more. So the way that enjoying a beverage with a meal and more importantly with good people is really what it circles around for me.
I want to just take a pause and breathe in what you just said. You
Mm.
know, I think that the some of the best memories that we have as we are aging is this beautiful remembrance of how we went to this dinner at this place and these are the things that we did at that time. And you're quite right, alcohol is really, yes, traditionally has been a part of it, but it's not alcohol usually that brings people to the restaurant. It's that social restoration. It's that beauty of hanging out with buddies over a delicious meal. I mean, breaking bread goes back to the beginning of time. And so when we think about how we can do that in a way that nurtures our spirit and doesn't put us in risk for other things to happen as a result of our
Yeah,
choices, right?
yeah.
You know, I know for myself, I love to go out and enjoy that at Pinot Noir, or for me, it's actually just a dry white that I is my preference. But I tend to butcher my dry white because I fill it with so many ice cubes because I want it to last the whole evening. I don't want to
Mhm,
drink and drive. I don't want there to be anything that could be an impediment for me to be able to safely be
mhm,
on the road. And because my tolerance is different now. And so knowing
mhm,
that there's something else that's out there that would give another opportunity for me is definitely in the wheelhouse that I like to promote for sure.
mhm.
As you are, as you're putting together Dine About, I'm curious about how you curated the restaurant choices, or did you have was there a group that just said, I want to do this, or how did Dine About happen?
Well, it was born out of this idea that, you know, food really does bring us together.
Yeah,
And I didn't want to be exclusivist about it. This is for our community. It's about helping people remember connection, especially because I started Dine About shortly after things lightened up from COVID. So the first Dine About was in 2023.
yeah,
And so that was when we just started to see like people are going out again, social distancing is softening. And a lot of restaurants were flagging or had failed. We lost a considerable number of
yeah,
restaurants during that
yeah,
time because of the restrictions. And so getting people back to this idea of like dining out is fun. Like I can
mhm,
discover something new. I can be comfortable in a favorite location. And so including everybody, it really is open to everybody who can meet some very few requirements, which is present a menu that showcases what you do. Give your guests an experience and let new people who are finding you know what you're all about. So this year we have, I think it's 49 participating.
wow,
Yeah. So there in there, there's restaurants, there's quick service, there's casual fine dining, everything in between. There's people who have breweries connected with their kitchens and all sorts. And so really letting a rising tide float all ships,
I love that. I love
right, is
that.
really what it's all about. So like let's get on board. Let's make people understand that the Mid-Island actually is destination dining. It's worth
Mm.
driving 20 minutes if you're in the 7 municipalities that are in our catchment, quote unquote, our catchment. But people are coming up from Victoria and down from Comox to enjoy the menus that are being offered.
I
Yeah.
I'm I would drive to a great place for dinner. I
I
absolutely,
have flown to a great place for dinner. So,
absolutely like
you know,
1,000%. Like if it's
yeah.
good, and there's a whole culture of foodies. I wouldn't say that I'm in that
Totally.
culture of foodies, but I know that there is a culture of foodies,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I want to bring something up that you talked about as it relates to the COVID conversation, because
Yes.
while it's now seems like, and it was an eternity ago, it wasn't that long ago in actual years. Have you seen a noticeable change in, again, the way people drink?
Mm.
Again, the way people are coming out? Are you seeing, like, what is it that you're seeing as far as the culture of community dining as a whole?
Yeah, I would say now it's, pre-COVID in terms of the way that people are coming out to dine and
That's good.
in that same seasonality that we saw before, the drinking patterns have changed. So even guests who enjoy an alcoholic beverage, they drink less or they zebra stripe. So they do one alc, one non-alc, one alc, one non-alc. So it
Yeah.
means at the end of the
Yeah.
night, they've only had two drinks. In our restaurant, they might stay for 2 or 3 hours. So, they are safe within legal limits to enjoy a beautiful pairing with their meal and
Yeah.
then get home safely and everyone else safe along with them.
Yeah.
So I think that we're seeing that as a trend, but additionally, we are seeing the younger generation, Gen Z, Gen Z, whichever you prefer, drinking far less or just not drinking at all. And it's not a point of conversation. It's
Yeah.
identity. It's like I don't drink. Like there's nothing more to say. I don't
Yeah.
drink. End of
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
And for myself, I like everything and I love lots of choice. So for me, I'm thrilled to have more and more options of these delicious offerings that we're seeing pop up and some great restaurants through our region that have spectacular non-alcoholic cocktail menus as well as non-alc wines. So that's something else people can discover during Dine About.
I'm happy to hear that. And I love the fact that our younger set are able to quite clearly and quite comfortably saying, nope, don't drink. And
Yeah.
what have you got? Something
Yep.
else that's really flavorful.
Yeah. And
Enjoy.
not just pop, right?
No,
Like which
exactly.
is which
Yeah.
is another conversation about sugar, but I won't take us down that rabbit hole.
But you're right, it is a rabbit hole, but it is true that used to be your choices. If you
Right?
didn't drink
Yeah.
alcohol at a fine dining
Yeah.
restaurant, you drank a soda, which I'm not a soda girl. I never have been. I can't. So you drank that, or you drank water, or you drank some kind of really sweet, fruity juice.
Yeah,
But there wasn't
absolutely.
really a lot of options out there for sure.
Mhm.
So lovingly, there is more now, and I'm glad to hear that. I know I had a party, it's quite a long time ago now, and one of my friends who's from Iceland brought over a non-alcoholic vodka.
Oh, wow.
Oh no, sorry, it was gin,
Mm.
non-alcoholic gin.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's that? Because I'd only seen non-alcoholic wine. I hadn't seen the
Mm.
non-alcoholic the higher I don't drink hard liquor at the best of times. So but at the end of the day, it was wonderful to know that there was something else. So she enjoyed the beverage throughout the party, uh,
Yeah.
was able to go home well, and there was no issues at all. But she sparked that interest of, gee, well, if there's non-alcoholic gin, there must be other non-alcoholic hard
Mhm.
liquor beverage choices as
Mhm.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Tracy, when it comes to putting the Nanaimo Foundation to this conversation, this working group, what inspired you to be a part of the working group as the foundation?
Well, I think just there's a couple of things. First, I want to go back to some of Sarah's comments about, after COVID,
Yeah, yeah,
people just really had that gap of not being connected to community,
yes,
not having places where they could exchange with their with their neighbors, connect with people live and in person. I think everyone really missed that.
Yeah.
And then I would add that the thing that resonated with me about partnering with the CODS initiative is just my family history. Like our social events, our family gatherings always had alcohol as a center point. And I'm seeing with my kids, with my youth, my Gen Zs, that they're making different choices. And I think it's really important to be inclusive and to destigmatize people's choices when they're going out to gather. I love some of what Sarah said around just, wanting to try all of the different things and have flavors. And
Mm.
I'm just so proud that that's happening right now. We were really fortunate when we connected to the community because the Nanaimo Foundation really hasn't done anything like this. But we connected really quickly with the United Way and the Nanaimo Oceanside Wellness Network. And then they really connected us to Island Health and the medical health officers and doctors in our community that are working on this issue. And we saw a huge gap in information.
Yes.
So, people just don't know that there's a plethora of treatments available to folks who are struggling with alcohol use disorder. And so from the personal side, I wanted to really destigmatize choosing not to drink. And then from the professional side, I just saw these community members that are working in a field that are largely uncelebrated or unknown. Unfortunately, the toxic drug crisis is top of mind for everyone, as it should be. But alcohol use disorder affects more people and costs us more money as a community. I think of some of my aunties who do still have that second glass of wine and, there could be a fall, there could be a little accident that just changes their lives, and so as a society, we've gotten into this just habitual pattern, I think. And so that really motivated me. All of those things together, it was just like the perfect timing to be able to do some of this work for the Nanaimo Foundation. We're a really small team, but being able to partner and have these really strong community members support the work has been really fantastic.
I agree. And I'm interested to learn more about some of those other programs because it is true. We don't know what we don't know. And alcohol for years has been on the main stage of what
Mm.
problematic issues are happening in people's families. And so, knowing that there's some options, I think my fear now, to be honest with you, partially because of the article we talked about a little bit earlier, and for other reasons as well. The article came out during COVID, and it was that more and more women were drinking, but it was more and more women were drinking alone and hiding it from the rest of their friends. And so suddenly there became, and to be honest with you, I saw during COVID myself, and I'm very transparent. I found myself drinking a lot more wine and I drank by myself. Now that is curbed now because of course we're back to reality. But in the moments that that was going on, I remember reading this thinking it is an epidemic, that how many people across the country that we don't know. Same with the opioid crisis, in all fairness. You see what's happening on the streets of, downtown Nanaimo, downtown Victoria, throughout Vancouver Island, and okay, there's an obvious problem with the opioids. But what people don't understand is the lion's share of people that die as a result of opioid crisis are dying in the privacy of their own home by themselves.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
alcohol's the same, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, go
100%.
ahead, please, Tracey, go ahead.
Yeah, 100%. People do drink by themselves, and a lot of times, it's habitual. They might not have an issue, but it could be just a habit, and why not, right? And that's one of the reasons why I really like dry January as well. I remember when I was young, my grandfather, who always had a glass of white wine with dinner, and sometimes a couple of more on Saturday night when he was watching the hockey game, would always stop drinking for January during January. And he said, Jewel, he used to call me Jewel, Jewel, you just got to put it down for a while and find out who's driving the car.
Yes. Who's driving the car?
And so that pause and reflection, right?
Uh,
I think it's really important. I'm really happy to see that it's become the norm now, where people are participating in this.
I agree with you, and I do think that it's important that we put it down for a little while and just to see who and what we're made of in that regard, and has it become problematic? I've seen a lot of young people do that as well, which I'm really proud of, right? To know that there
Mhm,
are
mhm,
people that are, they're taking real heart to this, knowing that in the winter time when it's cold, we've had our Christmas celebrations and probably had, I love the word libation. We've had many, many libations over the holiday season, that one too many rum and eggnog, that, is now on the hips or whatever it may be. The intention of putting a focus on saying, wait a minute, I'm going to pause and reflect as to what this really means in my life. I also remember a day back to the restauranting side of things. I remember a day when, Friday night after work, we all went to the pub
Yeah.
and there was great food at the pub. Pub food was, wonderful. And so you'd have a couple beers on a Friday and you'd have, a bite to eat, whatever that might have been at the local fair. Are people are people back in the habit of going out after work? Or is it more intentional in the way of people choosing Friday night, I want to go out for dinner. We're going to have a bunch of people together. Is it more planned or are we seeing a combination of both?
I think we're seeing a great variety of how people will choose to spend their dollars dining out. Of
Mhm.
course, with again back to COVID, we saw a lot more delivery services become available. So we're
Yes,
actually seeing that that has continued for people's convenience, that they don't want to cook and they don't want to clean, but they
but they
want to
want
stay
good
home, they want to
food.
be comfortable, and so then they'll take advantage of that service.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they can order beverages alongside that, and if they're ordering a meal, it means they can choose to order alcoholic or non-alcoholic beverage depending on what service that particular food and beverage establishment is offering. um, we'll certainly see that uh, Friday and Saturday nights are still the nights for people to go out. So that's date nights, friends gathering nights. But then, of course, there's the rest of the week where people are utilizing so many restaurants for
Mm,
brunch, lunch, dinner, brunch, happy hour, like late night. So we're seeing
mhm.
like a continued use of those. And if you review some of the establishments that are in our area, you'll see that they've selected the demographic that they're hoping to serve. So some people are open, I mean, gosh, like 24/7, which is incredible.
Yeah.
And then, others like CAMAS were open 3 evenings a week to the public because we just really focused in on the people who want to enjoy that particular experience.
I'm going to ask an awkward question. I don't like asking these kinds of questions, but I've really noticed it from the menu's perspective a lot lately, in
Mm.
that some of the beverages cost as much as the meal. And so I'm
Okay.
curious about that, right? Like I wonder whether or not cost and alcohol has got the relationship between cost and alcohol is also been a bit of an impediment for people to sort of say, look, I'm going to go out to eat, but I'm going to make these other choices because the sides being alcohol
Yeah.
dessert are often really quite pricey. Is that intentional, do you think?
Well, it's reflecting the rising costs that all of us are seeing right now. So
Sure.
if you've seen an increase in your grocery bill, it's exactly the same for the restaurants who are preparing it. So they simply need to cover their operating costs. So of course
Yeah.
they've got their overhead costs, the cost of labor, to say nothing of food cost and like what the bottle costs. So say, for example, say they sell a bottle of wine by the glass. So they open that bottle of wine. Well, that bottle of wine needs to sell within 2 days. Otherwise, you can't serve it anymore. So you might see that there's an extra cost associated with that simply because there's losses involved.
Yeah.
So it's not a surprise, and there's sort of nothing unexpected or nefarious going on in the background. It's
Oh,
simply like,
yeah, of
hey,
course.
this is the cost of actually doing business, and for
Yeah,
sustainability, they've done an analysis, they've seen what it is that they can offer
yeah,
as far as like the price point is
yeah.
concerned. But of course, then we do see that people are more selective about when they will go out, what they will choose to spend their money on. So maybe they only go out twice a month, or maybe they say like, okay, you know what, we're going to save. We're going to save and we're going to go out for a really special occasion. And then there's people who don't think about that and they just have what they want when they want, and that's okay too.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure.
Can I just add one
By
point
all
to that
means,
Kathy
yes, Tracey,
story?
please.
Um,
My pleasure.
I was talking to a restaurateur that I know, and talking about the way that because they have this great a variety of non-alcoholic cocktails, and I was talking about how I was asking, really just curiously, about how long it took to create these cocktails, and it really, because that's all sort of new territory, took
Yes.
quite a while to develop that menu, to get
Mm.
the flavor just right, and to be able to match it with the food pairing. Like it's an art. It's not just
Yeah.
ordering a soda.
No, you're
Yeah.
right. It is. It's definitely an art. It's a science in itself, and there's no doubt. I mean, especially, yeah, there are some local wines that we have on Vancouver Island that are absolutely
Yeah.
stunning. And I mean, that it may be a little bit of a pricier wine because it's local, but the overhead on some of these places is really wicked. And quite honestly, they're subject to climate issues and subject to, yeah, employment standards and people and time and all of those things that do make things a little bit more challenging when they're thinking about presenting something to community that's of a quality product for sure. I'm going to
Mhm.
take a moment here just to take a quick break. If you just tuned in, everybody, you tuned into App 3 on CHLY 101.7 FM in downtown Nanaimo. Of course, we serve all the way down to Duncan, all the way up to Comox, Camel River, and across to the Sunshine Coast. So, oh my goodness, if you're listening to us, thank you so much for doing so. We truly appreciate it. I do want to remind everybody of a couple of things that are happening. This time of year is difficult for an awful lot of people. It's really cold outside for some. We have a huge unhoused population on Vancouver Island who need some supports. And one of the most wonderful organizations within the Nanaimo community, not to cycle anybody out because everybody who's doing this work is amazing, but Island Crisis Care Society does some incredible work. And they're going through, some transition changes for finding and supporting the unhoused population in our communities. If you have a take on that and you know how to help, we'd love to hear from you. So feel free to reach out to me at act3mediaproductions at gmail.com. But I would also invite you to check out ICCS and see how you can help. They have an amazing kitchen. Speaking of restaurants, that they are always looking for people to come in and utilize that wonderful kitchen to be able to support not only the community as a whole, but restaurants that are startups or companies that are wanting to do a few wonderful things for the senior population, for youth, for others. These kitchens are the lifeblood of our food community. And so, with that being said, I invite you again to check out Island Crisis Care Society and see whether or not there might be a nice fit for you. I also want to share that not only is there some thoughts that are around that, but also Glitter 2026 is coming. And the idea behind Glitter is to raise money in Nanaimo for the Foundry. And we know that children and youth really need programs, and Foundry has been extraordinary on pulling these programs together, and we want to help. So if you're interested in becoming a volunteer for Glitter 2026, once again, I invite you to reach out or check us out on glitter2026.com. And hopefully we'll be able to, or little productions, actually, you can find them there as well. There are any number of amazing things that are happening in our community all the time. And if you have something you want to share, check it out. Call me. I'm happy to talk to you anytime. Reach out. You can just go to the Google and find Act 3, and you'll find all kinds of wonderful stuff. And if you really like this episode, but you missed something because you were driving, which is awesome too, you can go to our YouTube channel and check us out there, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. So thanks again for tuning into Act 3 every week at Monday on 1 o'clock at CHLY 101.7 FM. and I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get back to our guests now, and we'll talk more. By the way, I should have told you, go grab a piece of paper and a pen. You're going to want to get their information in a few minutes. So make sure you've got your pen and paper handy so we can give you their contact information. I have Tracey Brown in the Zoom booth with me. She is with the Nanaimo Foundation, and Sarah Wallbank from Dine About and the co-chef, co-owner of CAMAS Restaurant. Welcome back to the program. Okay, my head is full of wonderful ideas and questions for you. Because I know that our community is concerned about ensuring that there are opportunities for people to learn more about alcohol abuses, alcoholic disease. And I wonder if you can share, Tracey, a little bit more about some of those programs that are readily available or ways that people can investigate and find out more. Certainly, United Oceanside Wellness Network is a great start. They can get some information for sure. But what are some of the other ways that people can find out about how to even think about whether or not they may have a problem?
Well, I would direct folks to the COD's website, so the
Okay.
Canadian Alcohol Use Disorder Society's website. There's a plethora of information on that website. It's www.cods.org.
Okay.
And then I would also say that locally, there's a couple of doctors that are working really, really hard in this area.
Yeah.
And I think that a good first step for folks is to talk to their family doctor
Yes.
or their healthcare professional, if it's a nurse practitioner or their family doctor. I know not all of us have a family doctor right now,
Yes.
but start there because they would be able to connect them to the services that they need and help them assess their own where that individual happens to be.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think that those are two really easy places to start. There's links also on the Nanaimo Foundation to the COD's website and some other information that we have around rethinking drinking. So that one is www.nanaimofoundation.com. Um, and we're holding a community event at Vancouver Island University where on March 25th, it starts at 2:30 and ends at 4:30. Lots of parking if people are worried about parking and also easy transit. We're doing a screening of Smashed, which is a
Oh,
documentary on the doctor that founded CODS. And then that's going to be followed by a panel discussion, which is being curated by our working group. Again, our working group for CODS locally is a collection of professionals and lived experience folks. The United Way, Island Health, Mums Stop the Harm, and then some folks with lived experience.
love it.
And so, with those, though, that really knowledgeable working group, we've curated a really nice panel that will help tease out the information. And then we'll have a lot of information there, and the docs are coming. So, they'll be talking about different treatments that are readily available to folks. Um, and then we'll also have someone with lived experience that will just share their story.
Yeah. I love lived experience. I think we can learn so much from somebody who's already walked that road without a doubt. And sometimes the story is so impactful that it just carries things forward for people. I also want to say that if you're questioning yourself at any time, it's a good time to think about it, right? If I know for myself, not to, I'm certainly not the spokesperson for this in any way, but, after COVID, when I did notice that I was starting to have a little bit more, right? My little gut was saying, that's just not who you are. And
Mhm.
so that moment of pause, right? Going back to
Yeah.
your earlier conversation of your grandfather saying, you got to check this out, man. Like January, let's figure this out is very, very true. Taking that time. And then going back to Sarah to tie it in together as well is that there's options. One doesn't have to Sarah, I'm going to ask you what a question that almost seems, especially after such a powerful message. I because you're in the know of this experience, what have been some of your new favorites in the way of non-alcoholic libations?
Oh, there's been so many. Oh my goodness gracious. This, I mean, sort of my newest one
Yeah.
is it's called Undone.
Okay.
And they prepare spirit replacements. And you'll find them. So, through Ladysmith up to Qualicum Beach, there are many private beer and wine stores that have fabulous options. Another one is Edna's. And so those ones are a ready mix in a can. And so they'll have like a Moscow Mule or a sangria. So something that is no effort. You can get something in the can. And then for the ones where you want to play mixologist at home and really enjoy that process and that ritual of preparing
Yeah.
a drink, then Undone has been absolutely fabulous.
That's awesome. And I'm glad to know that our local liquor stores or the specialty liquor stores actually do have these options as well. Because I do notice that a lot of the time people will go in and it's really that your choices are very, you come into a beer and wine store, you're going to buy beer and wine, right? I like the idea. And the stuff at the grocery store, while I'm sure that there are some that are not bad, I
Mm,
find that I they still taste like juice to me. Like, for example,
mhm,
you know what I mean? So I'm always looking for something that actually, because I think a lot of people drink, and I'm curious about your take on this. A lot of people drink not because of the alcohol at all. They drink because they
mhm.
like the taste. And there's a taste that it comes with a white wine, for example, that
Yeah.
is not the same as any other. And it's hard to replicate that taste without the alcohol. I'm
Mhm.
curious about that on some of the newer libations.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And the people who are preparing them are working really hard to give a satisfying experience without the alcohol. And for the early iterations, the feedback was always like, it's missing something, it's missing something. But
Yeah.
that's certainly when you're comparing it, side by side with something that it's replacing. And I think it's important to frame expectations about what is being consumed, right? So it is
Mhm.
about enjoying, for example, a refreshing beverage. If it's a cocktail, something that is complex, something that is enjoyable, something that slows us down. So, with regards to those particular types, instead of looking for that piece, well, this, if we're always comparing, well, this doesn't taste like rum. Well, it's not rum. So how can it taste like a rum? That's one of the things I think about. But we're seeing like great advancements uh, in the way that they're able to preserve the real flavor. So Divan is another non-alc producer of wines. And recently, when I was at Mélange restaurant in downtown Nanaimo, Gaetan, who's the owner there and is absolute sommelier extraordinaire, has like a whole has a whole sheet of non-alc wines to pick from. And I was blown away, that you could have like sparkling or white or red, and that they were so pleasant, like the aroma was as it should be. If I was, holding up the globe of a wine glass and enjoying that wonderful like fruit presentation and what those complexities might be, and then like the taste and the texture and then the thing was I just, I didn't have that one small element, but because everything else was so well prepared, so thoughtfully considered and executed that me missing that alcohol piece became such a small percentage that I was just like, the benefits for me being able to enjoy this beverage with this meal and is going to pair so well meant I didn't care anymore that I was missing that something that comes from the alcohol.
Yeah.
But with lesser products, I have had in the past where I'm just like, oh yeah, like yeah, it's definitely missing, definitely missing something. But now it's much less of an issue, I think, with the advancements that have been made in creating something closer to what we might be expecting. But again, like I would just say, reframing and changing our expectations is
Agreed.
critical. And that doesn't mean lowering our standards.
No,
That
no, no.
just means it's different. Like spring is not like summer, summer is not like autumn, autumn's not like winter, but they're all wonderful in their own way.
Absolutely. And I really appreciate you saying that because I think that it's very, very true. And you kind of put me into a memory mode
Mhm.
of going back to the flavors and that pairing of certain flavors. And it's true that it's not about the alcohol, it's about the texture and the taste and the way that they blend together and all of that. So managing expectations is very, very true. But I would say that managing expectations on a multitude of levels, because this conversation is quite broad, right? Like we're talking about alcohol, and then we're talking about flavor, and then we're talking about those missing pieces and how to bring them all together. And I do think that, when you are willing to try something else right from
Mhm.
the get-go, right? When you're able to let yourself go and have a flavor or a taste, that you might just find yourself to be rather pleasantly surprised by, that wonderful way that things without having the side effects or the guilt or the depression that I think comes in some cases for people that say, well, I don't want to quit drinking. I like the buzz, right? I don't want to do this. Nobody's going to tell me that I can't do this and this and this, right? Rather than oh, I never thought that blackberry, blueberry, whatever, whatever would fit so well with this piece of, chicken or whatever. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, yeah, I think it's really important that we do challenge our expectations for certain. As people go towards making New Year's resolutions as well, they often give themselves those expectations. I'm going to quit XYZ, and I'm going to find that by January the 5th, everything has been done, dealt with, and my expectations are there. Are you seeing people in your work that are coming up with any number of excuses? Because earlier we talked about how young people have no excuse. They just say, no, I don't feel like it. Are you finding that people are tying in their own dry January choices in their conversation when they're ordering?
Um, I usually just hear it in the sense, at CAMAS that people just say, "Oh, I so appreciate that there's so many options for
Yeah.
us to have." And again, for me, like I said before, it's about choice and the idea that, we can try something on for size, where people who are rethinking drinking and just bringing their awareness to um the choices they make in their daily life that are normally maybe habitual
Mm-hmm.
because they just have a program, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's just pressing pause on that program and saying, what is it I really want? What is going to serve me best? What is going to be for my highest good?
Yeah.
We can see that there's more of that reflection going on. Of course, with, the resolutions that people make. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of New
I
Year's
know. Right?
resolutions because I'm like, don't lie to yourself. Like, make something more achievable. Like, make
Right.
iterations, make baby steps. Like, please don't have like, just change a small thing. And maybe the small thing is, I'm just gonna think about what I choose to drink today. And when I make the choice, I'm going to know that that's exactly the right choice for me at that time.
That's right.
Mm.
I think the
How
reason I asked
beautiful.
that question as well is to normalize it, right? Let's
Yeah.
normalize this conversation and this second guessing of ourselves. It's okay to try something else on for size.
Yeah, totally. It's
Yeah.
easy. And you're in the driver's seat. You get to say, like, I do it, I don't do it. I'm doing it now, but I'm not doing it later. Like, whatever. It's totally cool.
Yeah, and it doesn't need to be the all or nothing either, right? It's like, no,
Yeah.
okay, like this is not,
Yeah.
again, I value the concept of just trying something on for size and seeing if it will work for a little while and if it
Mhm.
and also the real recognition of who really am I today, right?
Mhm.
Where am I on this continuum? Right? If it becomes an issue where you're asking yourself that question all of the time, then maybe there is a problem.
Mhm.
If you're settling for something versus something else, maybe there is a problem. If you know what I mean? If you're putting yourself into a position where you're not really being honest with yourself, then those decisions become a lot harder when they don't
Mhm.
have to be.
Mhm. Yeah, if people haven't
Exactly. And
arrived at the awareness of, of what's going on. And you sort of use the word problem, like where is their life not smooth? Where are they finding friction? And when they trace it back to the source, then maybe it is about the choice around what they're choosing to drink. And then maybe if they think about other choices that are connected to why they've gone down the path, then maybe they can trace back the source then to what, the real concern or issue is that needs attention, needs addressing, needs to be sat with.
Yes. Yes. Tracey.
Well, and I think everyone should just be kinder to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
since, during the pandemic and after the pandemic, we've all talked about being kind to others and being
Mm-hmm.
compassionate and losing some of our judgment. But we forget we have to be kind to ourselves first,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
that's, going back to the New Year's resolution thing as well, let's just be kind to ourselves and not judge ourselves too harshly.
Mm-hmm.
I it's funny that you should say it the way that you just did, because I know for a fact when I talk to so many people, and I have the great privilege on this stage to be able to do that, and we wouldn't treat other people the way we often treat ourselves, right? We would be kind, we would be compassionate, we'd be thoughtful, but to ourselves, we pick up the beat up stick and just give ourselves a couple of Wallamax, right? Be kind to yourself is a really great way for us to transition into the next part of our conversation. For most people who listen to the program, they know that I always end the program with a piece of wisdom. What did we learn? What's our takeaway? What would we imbibe on our community? And so we're at that place in our conversation now where we have a moment to sort of reflect on that. So Tracey, I'm going to start with you first, if that's all right.
Mm-hmm.
If you could imbibe on our community something that you feel, you've learned from all of this process, what might that look like for you?
Well, I think a couple of things, and I'm thinking particularly about this partnership with Dine About.
Yeah.
Our community's economic engine is small business, and the restaurateurs and the food producers in our region are so excellent, and they're hit with so many challenges, especially with climate change, that I'm really using Dine About as a catalyst to try different places. And so I hope that my fellow community members will take this opportunity when times are slow, to just go out and try something new.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic, Tracey. Absolutely. Sarah, what's your take on it?
I think it's about keeping curious, being curious about choices that we make, rethinking drinking, keeping curious about what's in our own backyards, get out and discover something new, knowing that you can always go back to that which is comfortable. I think if people take a moment to review sort of what's around and available to them, that they'll leave feeling proud of their local food scene and inspired to keep supporting it long after this particular festival ends and even after dry January is finished, that them keeping curious and going forward, that they can keep supporting different choices that's benefiting themselves.
Love it. Both of you. Thank you so much for being on the program today. I truly appreciate it. As we are coming to a close, Tracey, how do people find out more about Nanaimo Foundation? Do you have a website that you can shout out for people that grab their paper and pen and may not have caught it right at our halfway point?
Absolutely, Kathy. They can find us at www.nanaimofoundation.com, or they can email me, Tracey, Tracey, at nanaimofoundation.com.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tracey. And Sarah?
Yes, people can go to dineabout.ca for our website. They can email hello@dineabout.ca. And we also have Facebook and Instagram handles, which are Dine About Mid Island. And you'll find lots of great information on all of those platforms, where to go dine, select menus that are being featured, as well as an amazing photo contest that's worth over
Ooh,
$1,000.
ooh, even better. I love that. That's fantastic. All right, everybody. That does it for this episode of Act 3 on CHLY 101.7 FM. You know what to do. Make some plans. Get out there. Go enjoy some restaurants or dine out. And do take a moment to think about where you sit with Rethinking Drinking. Have yourself a great day, everybody. We'll see you next time on Act 3.